Welcome to the Scale Model Podcast. In this podcast, we aim to entertain, inform, and promote the hobby of scale model kit building with interviews, reviews, and news about the hobby. The Scale Model Podcast is currently recorded bi-weekly and is available where your favorite podcasts are found, including iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, as well as our website at www.scalemodelpodcast.com. Let us know if you have any comments or suggestions at scalemodelpodcast@gmail.com or at our Facebook page at facebook.com/Scale Model Podcast. We also publish extra video content on our YouTube channel, and we also have a Patreon page at patreon.com/Scale Model Podcast. The money raised will be used to help offset web hosting and other costs. As the podcast grows, we hope to introduce giveaway and other bonuses to our Patreon supporters as a thank you for supporting the Scale Model Podcast. Welcome to the Scale Model Podcast, episode 34, sponsored by Goodman Models. My name is Stuart Clark, and I am proud to be once again back here at Goodman Heavy Industries, deep in the deep, dark recesses of South London, Ontario, in a top-secret location. And I'm here with my co-host, Anthony Goodman. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm great, Stuart. How are you this evening?
Not too bad. After all the fun we had with some technical difficulties last week, it's nice to be live again. At least this time, unlike 2 weeks ago, the snow's not flying and freezing rain.
It feels like spring already.
Almost. It'd be nice if that would be, but... You know, first of all, though, we should give a shout out to, again, our friends in Australia down under at the on the bench.
The boys at the bench.
Yeah, they've unfortunately been really, really busy. Dave was called away. He does some emergency response work, and they've had, if you've read the news, a lot of issues with wildfires and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
Pretty serious stuff. So we hope everyone's staying safe down there.
Wishing them well.
Wish them well. All that good stuff, and we'll go from there. So, all sorts of goodies. So we're going to start with some listener mail. Speaking of Australia, Mr. Aidan O'Donnell, I'm writing to let you know how much I enjoyed your interview with Aaron Skinner. We had Aaron from Fine Scale Modeler on our last podcast. Yep. I found it fascinating. I have watched many of his YouTube videos and found the story of his entry into the professional modeling world very interesting indeed.
Us as well.
Yeah, so now here's where you get some kudos. I'm looking forward to Anthony's upcoming series on resin kit building. I have a few resin kits of ships from the Babylon 5 TV show. Did you ever see that? That was awesome.
Yes, I did watch that one. It was very cool. Yeah.
They have been hibernating in my stash for a few years now, and I haven't worked up the nerve to tackle one. Hopefully I will pick up a few tips and summon up the courage to have a go.
Okay, we'll definitely get you rolling, because there's just a few ideas.
Yeah.
And they're going to be we're going to really try and outline a lot of the basic stuff to get you into it in our new series, In-Depth Review?
In-Depth Report?
I
think that's what we're...
We just changed it up.
We just keep changing it however.
In-Depth Review, Building the Valkyrie.
Yeah. So, and it's going to be good. So if you do, you got to send us some pictures. Now, one more thing. Now, here's one more. You'll love this. As you guys, Chris and Julian's fan group, Julian's Jewels, I would like to propose the name Anthony's Acolytes for the followers of the upcoming In-Depth Report.
Sure.
My first thought was Goodman's Groupies.
That's more like it.
But after some reflection, I thought that sounded a trifle seedy. No. Maybe I'll leave it up to the listeners to decide. Yeah. Listeners, you guys can decide.
Julian's Jewels is a real winner.
I know we like that, but I think we need something for you.
Sure.
So we're going to ask our loyal listeners.
I accept that challenge.
The Horde and all that.
Yes.
Anthony's Acolytes or Goodman's Groupies. We'll let the fans decide.
Julian's Jewels, that's a tough one to beat.
It is. I know.
Really
bring
your A game.
And it's a large fan base.
Get it, A game.
From our good friend Julian.
Yeah, get it, A game.
A game.
Bring your A game.
Anthony's A game.
Now, speaking of Patreons, this is something I forgot to mention to you earlier. So, of course, everyone can join our loyal fans.
Yes.
And to help support the show, and we greatly appreciate that. And we had a Patreon supporter come on board about maybe 2 episodes back, Terry. And I butchered his name.
Okay, I thought I butchered his name.
I'm usually pretty good.
I'm the one that butchers
names.
Okay. Did you get it? Did
he send you an email? I was chit-chatting with Terry.
You were good. Okay.
I do know Terry is a buddy.
Yes,
the guy
right. Yes.
is a fellow I know, a fellow modeler, just a great guy. And I've met him over the years going down to Wonderfest.
So you got the correct, how do we say it?
Yeah, so Terry's name kind of originates in from Germany.
Okay.
And he was explaining about how you say it, right? So it's I think I called him Mizell, which is not right at all.
Okay.
Maybe that's the name of his Gundam. So the Terry Mizell
Okay.
Gundam.
All right.
But his name is Measly.
Measly.
Or in the proper German, Measly.
Okay. All right. Terry,
So Terry-
our apologies.
Sorry about that.
Feel free to give Anthony a smack if he slaughtered it again. next
Terry
time
is
you
an
see him.
awesome model
Yeah, you were
builder,
saying
and,
he said very good things about
he
it.
mentioned that he's doing some driving, maybe for work, and
Oh,
he
yeah?
said anything to help him that keeps him up while he has to do
Keeps
his
him
long
up
drives.
and prevents him from falling asleep. The podcast that
it's
keeps you
helpful.
awake.
Yes,
That's all
that's
right.
pretty good.
That's all right.
Well, I'll take
All right.
that as a
Well,
win.
he'll have to send us some
So
pictures.
thank you,
of some-
Terry.
So Terry, send us some pictures of some of your builds as well.
Yeah.
And make sure we get them up.
He does have a beautiful Valkyrie.
There you go. There you go. All right. Right on with the news, because you know that Christmas is coming.
Jumping all
Have you
in.
noticed now that Black Friday seems to be a thing the world over now?
It is.
You see a lot of
Absolutely.
manufacturers and stores now have Black Friday sales coming
Oh
up. So
yeah, including
just saying.
Hobbylink Japan has
HobbyLink
a
and
Black Friday
whole
sale.
bunch. So
right
anyway,
now.
some of these things you might find there. I doubt it, but you never know, right? Because the new stuff's never on sale. Revell, November releases from Land, Sea, and Air. So this is from our friends at the Modeling News.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of these we may have talked about before, but a couple of them are new. We're going to start with the Airbus A380-800 from Emirates Airline. This was a special paint scheme
Ooh,
they
that's
did
cool.
called Wildlife. So yeah, this is in 1/144 scale. This
That's
is
sharp.
the big Airbus Industries, basically the jet that has two levels of passengers. So Emirates set itself a goal of drawing attention to the illegal trade of wild animals. So they supported a campaign called United for Wildlife to end the trade. So yeah, so they basically did this special paint scheme, which is absolutely gorgeous.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yep. So this is, again, a replica of the A380. The A380, 22 wheels. It's a monster plane.
Yeah.
So for all you airliner guys, looks quite a good kit. 163
Very
parts.
cool.
Half a meter in length, 504 millimeters.
Wow.
And the wingspan's 555.
So that's
30
a
euros.
really-
It's a big in 1/144th.
Yeah.
It's a big.
That's a good size.
It's a good size
Can,
airliner.
can we? Does it qualify as a Monstro or no?
It's getting up there.
Yeah.
It's getting up there. Yeah.
Interesting. I noticed that Revell actually they indicate that level system, like
They do.
beginner.
Yeah. The different
And
manufacturers.
this one's a
do.
5, so it's like at
Yeah.
their high end of building, which I find quite interesting. I'm not saying it would be simple or something.
Yeah,
like
you
that,
would think, but
uh,
obviously there's a lot of things. I think
Yeah.
the decal and the painting, you wouldn't want to mess up those
Oh,
decals.
those guys, I think the builders who are doing like the commercial airliners,
Oh, yeah.
it's really crisp, it's
Yeah.
really smooth. There's some
Exactly.
real skill going on there.
Exactly. Okay, and then they have in 1/72 scale a German sub. This is the Type 9C, either U67 or 154. 72nd scale, just over a meter in length. So again, barely. They were large in that scale.
Monstro,
Monstro, well, a meter. So
trademark scale
1,063. Okay, 177 parts, 99 euros. So yeah, it's a big kit.
Wow, yeah,
Yeah, they
that's
were.
a good project for the winter.
Yep, yep. But again, nice and narrow. Hull representation. Torpedo. You can have the torpedo doors open or closed. Extended periscope and antenna. I've seen some people who've done these at shows.
I've seen a lot of great
There's some pretty cool stuff that
U-boat
people do. Yeah.
builds there. Just mine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Like for some reason they really.
You would think again.
capture
You
the
think it would be
attention.
easy, but there's a lot of stuff and
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, then moving
Weathering.
on is the SLT 50-3 Elephant and the Leopard 2A4 in 1/72 scale. So this is the Leopard tank used by the German army and a transporter they used to transport this thing. And needless to say, when you need to transport a very large main battle tank, you need a pretty big transporter.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the transporter is an 8x8 all-wheel drive, payload of 52 tons. So yeah, designed to do the heavy things. So in 72nd scale, that's still going to be a pretty fair size.
Is this a new?
This is a new
mold?
yeah. So remember I said before Revell did some of the Matchbox molds? They were 176. So this has got to be a newer mold. So movable ramps. Again, good. A lot of good detail. And if you don't have a ton
Yeah.
of space, A lot of good space.
Yeah, I've seen some very impressive 72nd scale armor. Like, I don't want to build that, but I've seen it's true though.
If you have the eyesight in that, it's great.
Yeah, and the space and the cost, right?
Yeah.
It's a great kind of project in that sense.
It's a great scale. Some people use them for wargaming and
but even just
stuff
as like on the shows at our local IPMS shows and whatnot, there's some really impressive.
Oh, there is, and
builds.
it's impressive what you can do. Next up is a PT boat, PT 588 or PT 57. This is 1/72nd scale. This is again used in the Second World War. Looks like a lot of good detail on this one. Now this is I'm pretty sure this is a completely different mold than the original PT 109 from years and years ago.
This looks really different. Like there's a lot of different.
Yeah, different torpedoes. Twin rocket launchers? Has he got a rocket launcher? That's
or maybe those are the anti-torpedo.
Oh, depth charges, you mean? No, I don't see.
No, those rocket pods on the side?
Oh, yeah, there is a rocket launcher there. Yeah, different. I'm not a PT boat guy. I didn't know they had
I don't know a lot of the details.
But anyway, this served... Yeah, these were in the Pacific in July 45. PT's Boat Squadron 39, 2 different boats from there.
Cool.
Okay, now here's one I like. This is the Land Rover Series 3 in 1/24 scale. We talked about this coming out a little while ago.
Your dad drove this,
My dad had one now. He didn't have the long wheelbase. He had the short wheelbase one, but again, pretty close color. Used by, good British export for years. The thing's a legend. Some people say it's a legend for breaking down and you need to have a lot of spare parts, but the nice thing about it is you could pretty well, use a hammer in something and, once you get the part in, it would work. The thing would keep ticking. Off-road capabilities, stuff like that. So this was this was the third generation, so the Series 3. It was built from about 1971 for almost 15 years.
Unchanged.
Very basic.
That is a
good basics, easy to service motor. I see they've even got the correct gear things. If you notice, there's several gear shifts.
Oh, okay.
So one's your standard, first through fourth and reverse.
Yeah.
The other one would allow you to switch to like low gear for 4-wheel drive.
Okay.
And the other one would lock up the wheels. There was one that is a differential lock.
Oh, wow.
The other one's the handbrake.
That's a real testament to the design, quality.
These things are solid.
Don't change it to improve it.
If you need to cross a river, you cross a river. You might get wet feet because you'd cross the thing and away you go. And no, awesome. they don't go fast like my dad's in England. You're lucky if you get 50 miles an hour going downhill. Basically, it's not really designed for high speed, but. You ask most people, it just does the job.
Yeah.
So that one eventually may end up.
It's a cherry.
That may end up. Sure. That would be one that I'll keep my eyes open for. So that would be a nice one. Next up is an English Man of War in 1/96 scale. This I'm sure is a repop. I swear I've seen something like this before years ago.
96th scale too.
Yeah, so
is that a common what do you call this type of ship, like with the rigging?
This is a sailing vessel. 196, no.
Like if they made this today, they probably would pick a constant like 350 or
this is what I'm thinking. This is an older mold.
Yeah.
But again, quite a bit of detail. A sailing ship. I've actually got one in the stash. I've got a larger scale HMS Victory. I picked up for like a stupid deal or a thrift sale.
Couldn't say no.
The rigging terrifies me, but again, you have these guys that are good at doing it, and they're just absolutely amazing.
It'd be a challenge.
It'd be like a winter project if you have a lot of time and space and all that. So for someone who wants to get into it, I think this is they're calling it a level 5, but again, it's just, you take your time and all that. And you know what? The build up they did for the picture, someone did a really good job.
Yeah, it's pretty good looking.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. So it works really well.
I think I've seen this kit around too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, let's move on to our friends at Trumpeter, I believe. Yeah, November releases there. So 40 kits, again, some Russian stuff. The Russian URAL 4320 in 1/35 scale. This is an old 6x6 all-terrain purpose truck. It started production in the 76 and still in production. So, it's your basic deuce and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
You can also serve as a launch platform for the BM-21 Glide rocket launcher. So again, some basic decals. You do get some masks for it, as trumpeters more and more been doing.
Good for them. That's a cool feature.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty nice. And again, more Russian stuff. 460 parts, 225 meters, metal parts, brass wire, 17 sprues, full drivetrain assembly.
I wonder what they've got. So pictured on the box art, and then in the sort of schematic diagram,
It's
they've
like
got
a
something
little-
in the back there.
Yeah, it looks like a little, almost like a tent or like a passenger thing.
Yeah. Porta
Yeah.
potties.
Porta potties?
I
I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, it's got some sort of weird. It looks like it's.
You know
sort
what?
Of,
You know what?
a
It
module
could
that
be
comes
because
out.
if I look at it, if you look at further down, it looks like individual doors.
Yeah, it
So
sort of
maybe it
looks
is.
Like,
Maybe it is.
I'm not sure about that, but
You never know.
yeah. But they've got something in there.
There's
Right?
some super detailing opportunity. You can open the door, and if you can find your 35th scale toilet, you can put one of those in.
Yep. Which is
All right, the trumpeter, the 124 scale, the big Stuka Ju-87 dive bomber. So this is the first. This is the Ju-87B. This is the first mass-produced model. Flight tests began in the summer of '37, and at least 3 of them were converted to Type C or Type E used by the Navy. Now you're saying, wait a minute. What do you mean the Navy? Well, the Germans were going to build an aircraft carrier. They were halfway through building it, the Graf Zeppelin.
Yes.
Or
the
whatever.
Graf Zeppelin.
And they were going to have navalized versions of the Stukas. So that's probably what that was.
But they never got to it.
No. So this is Airfix did a 124, but I know
gonna say,
when
is this the
trumpeters. No, I think trumpeters come out with one before, but again, this will be a very nice quality.
So these are going back a bit. The older molds.
Airfix was the original 124th mold, and it's very dated. These are newer.
Yeah.
These are definitely newer.
Yeah.
So looks good. Again, good size. Okay, moving on as well is the AA60 Airport Fire Truck 135th scale.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is from 1976. Again, looks like something, out of Russia, basically, as well. So it was, it can also be used in series with a 4-wheel drive trailer to form a total of 205.5 meters of road train. They're mainly used for the oil field surveys. And it's used as a military heavily duty tractor.
Tractor. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a fire truck, but it can also be used as a fire truck.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, it's
a
got
bit
the
of both.
weight to pull it.
Yeah.
Tug,
That actually looks pretty. And
does it
again,
tug?
as we've said before with the Russian stuff, there's a lot of sci-fi possibilities there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
Well,
always
this
love
looks
their
Russian
stuff.
to me.
It is. It's Russian.
Yeah.
It
But I
is.
mean, it has that Russian aesthetic.
It does.
Like you
yeah.
can tell a Russian design.
But I do.
Right?
I like it because it always looks to me futuristic.
Yeah.
Just like a very utilitarian,
Yes.
cyberpunk type thing. So
For
again,
sure.
it's got some photo etch stuff like that, and then we
Masks.
finish up with and I think we talked about this briefly, but it's now been released. The John F. Kennedy aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
1700 CV-67. It was the 4th ship produced from the Kitty Hawk class.
So this one's already been decommissioned.
Yeah, so this was the last conventional aircraft carrier. So this is the last one that was
Before
nuclear.
the super carrier.
Right, this was the Kitty Hawk class, and then
okay.
they came out with the Nimitz class after
That was
this.
the first nuclear powered.
Well, no, Enterprise was.
Oh,
Enterprise was
Enterprise.
was a one-off. So
Okay.
basically, you had the Kitty Hawk class.
Yeah.
Then Enterprise came out, was a one-off because
Yeah.
it was kind of like a test bed for nuclear.
Yeah.
Then you had the Nimitz class, and now they're just building the Gerald Ford class,
That's the new
which
one.
are the new
yeah.
ones.
And now the Nimitz are all being retired.
The Nimitz,
Nimitz classes.
So the Kennedy was recently retired. I don't
Yeah.
know. The Nimitz hasn't been retired yet.
Really?
I think they're
And the
getting.
Carl S. Vinson is still
They're
going.
still around. Yeah. If they have, or there's one in reserve. And anyway. So this has all the various aircraft: F-14s, E-2s, S-3s. Lots of decals. All the schemes for the aircraft.
I love aircraft carriers. I don't
Oh,
know
I
why I've
know.
never bought a model of one.
I have one from a World War II one. Again, it's something on my list, but I just look at all those little decals for all those little aircraft.
Just wondering, I have a poster of the aircraft carrier. I wonder if that's the one.
That one says 100,000 tons of diplomacy. Newport News did build those, and they also build the current ones. Newport News is pretty well who builds the U.S. aircraft carriers.
Oh yeah, okay.
Depending on the,
I picked that poster up. It's like a recruitment poster.
Yeah.
When I was in the States,
right.
out at Wonderfest, and I just kind of really like it in a sort of ironic way.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good. we'll do a picture of that. I don't see a CV number, so I can't.
No, I don't know if they
which one
reference. It's a sort of almost like a drawing.
Yeah,
or like
it's a drawing. No, it does
line
show
rendering.
F-18s.
Yeah.
So it's probably a newer one, probably a Nimitz one.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has 610 parts, 34 sprues, one piece part of the hull, which is nice. Lots of photo etched.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's kind of nice too. Okay, moving on. Special Hobby. Our good friends at Special Hobby. What do they have this month? They have all sorts of goodies. Again, Special Hobbies, they're nice enough. They got a good newsletter. They got a Finnish U-boat coming out.
Wow. Finnish U-boat.
A Finnish U-boat. CV. It was actually a prototype of the German Type 2 sub.
So would this have been like a Nazi?
Finished Navy in 36 and went on to serve in 44. No, they were, so they were working with the Nazis for a while.
Yeah.
And she took part in both the Winter and Continuation Wars, and in 59 she became a permanent exhibit in Finland. And then there is the first helicopter in the history of aviation to reach production status, and the first one to fly across the English Channel. It's the Drak. FADARCH. This is a captured one.
This was German.
This was German, and this is showing a captured one. So this is a 48th one. Has both photo etch and
pretty cool.
German. Comes with markings for Luftwaffe, RAF, and U.S. Army Air
That's
Force.
a really neat subject. I gotta say, I'm actually not familiar with this, but I knew that they were prototypical helicopters.
Some of these ones,
from
they were
Nazi
just
Germany.
around, just right around
flew.
that time.
They
Yep,
worked.
they flew.
Yeah.
Then they have a 1/72nd scale Mirage dual pack and book. So you get two Mirage F1 kits, plus looking like a very nice book.
Awesome.
And then a bunch of their resin stuff. I'm not going to go through everything here, but they've got quite a bit there. They use some good resin stuff. I've heard very good things about them. Their resin
Oh, excellent.
works. So so that's what's coming up.
Oh
from
yeah, CMK. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're doing some pretty fine work, which is great.
Okay, a couple of new things from Tamiya for November. They did release their 112 Porsche 934 Jägermeister with photo etch parts. That's a nice looking car. I love Porsches though.
Yeah.
This has come out already. I've heard people saying some very good things about it. So this one recreates the 934 from the 76 World Championship season.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Opening doors, front and rear hoods, just that classic Porsche design. There's also a 124 Toyota GR Supra, and then their light tank, the 38 AUS came out. And then they've also got, was there anything else? That's basically it. They did release kind of funny. They've got under tools and paints, Tamiya pencils.
Oh.
They're just pencils with the Tamiya logo, but they're square. So I love this. Show off your love for Tamiya with a set of 3 HB pencils emblazoned with the Twin Star logo and a simple yet effective slogan. And then square pencils have less of a habit of rolling away and getting lost.
Just like a carpenter's pencil, which I use all the time.
Exactly. I just think that's kind of cute.
Yeah, it's fun. I love stuff like that
Yeah.
too.
They always do these.
I know, like, you can just use whatever regular pencil for your, like, if you're drawing something out, but it's fun to have stuff that's like
Neat things.
for the hobby because it kind of puts you in that mind, right?
Yeah. Well, and the idea of being a square, see, a tip I always had is over the years. Remember, you used to get those little pencil erasers. You put the pencil through.
Yeah.
You put that in your X-Acto knife blade, and that way the blade doesn't roll off and stab you in somewhere possibly.
Exactly.
Yeah. We won't
That's
really go.
fun.
Won't really go there. Edouard, I wanted to know this. So they're releasing a Royal Class Mustang, due in, I believe, very early in December actually. So this is their 148th Edward. We've talked about this before. So this is going to be their Royal Class. So this always comes with, this will contain sprues for 2 complete models and a choice of decals for 14 aircrafts from the D5, 10, 15, 20, and D25 production blocks, as well as the Mustang Mark IV. Now, I do notice there's one here that's for a Canadian squadron, so I know some Canadian fans will be interested with that.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, their Royal Class stuff is always really cool if you're a fan.
Do we have a price on this for the listeners?
I don't see a price here because it's coming out in December. It'll be on their
new.
website. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be up there, but it's good value for money if you build them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to point the Canadian connection out there.
Yeah, very cool.
Also, our friends from Arma Hobbies, they're a small little company out of Poland, and I love their stuff. I really hope they make they made a 72nd scale Hurricane Mark 1, which was really well received. I really hope they do a 48th at some point, but this is their next project they're working on for the Hurricanes is a Mark 2C. This is the metal wing one. So they've actually got some test shots here, and this is in 1/72nd scale.
The original ones had like a canvas skin wing.
The original one was the canvas.
fabric?
Yeah, the fabric wings. This is the Mark II. And again, look at the detail of this. This is 72nd scale. And it's just, they've done a really nice job. I know one of our local stores, Brothdale Hobbies, he's got a few of them in stock still.
Okay.
And we had a couple of guys at the club, our local club, so I managed to get a look in the box, and I'm very impressed. Again, I just don't build 72nd anymore. If he ever came out with 48th, I'd be really impressed. And again, they've got some good things. So keep an eye on these guys.
Arma Hobby.
Arma Hobby, yeah. I do like to promote the smaller ones that do kind of.
They have a really nice website too.
They do. Their website's excellent.
Yeah, kind of. It's neatly laid out. So yeah, have a look at that.
Okay, then from Mini Arts, they always have a wide variety of things. A couple of new releases there. One I wanted to point out was the B-Type military omnibus. So this is from the First World War. And what basically happened is you had omnibuses used by Transport of London, like London buses. Mm-hmm. So basically what they did is, for war work, they literally, boarded up the windows, put some wood in, basically, made it kind of, it's not going to stop much. And they literally drove them over to France, put them on the ferry, drove them over to France with the troops in.
So and this painted them up, drab, and then...
so Airfix had I know people have taken... Airfix has a 32nd scale civilian omnibus.
Oh, yeah.
They've had it for years. It's on one of my... If I see it for a good deal, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
And people have converted that over the years to like a military one. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time I've seen one that's actually a military right out of the box. Yeah.
They must have made some modifications
to it. They did. Like I said, they added the side things and but this looks really nice. They've got some nice details on this.
Yeah.
They got a couple of variants you can do.
Nice parts breakdown.
Yeah. So that I think will definitely attract some people into it. They also have an Australian M3 Lee interior kit, Soviet tank crew, 70s to 80s in winter uniform. A T-55 in service of Poland. What else do they have here? And I think I saw... the German car, the Cabriole Saloon. So again, this would have been probably post-war. Just before the war.
So 30s...
Yeah, in the 30s. Yeah, but again, some good ideas for diorama ideas, and then a railway non-brake flatbed car, basically. So again, more diorama ideas. So yeah, that was from Mini Art. So that was pretty cool. And then
it's a British flat car. No.
Well, you're European. They have the smaller cars like that. Could be Russian, could be British.
Yeah. Okay,
a couple of things from Dragon. They've got some more on their space stuff because again, we're in the 50th anniversary of Apollo. Yeah. So they've got three. They've got the Lunar Approach in 1/48 scale. So this is the command module Columbia, and the landing module that actually went on the moon, the Eagle.
Yeah.
And then 1/72nd scale, they've got the Apollo and Soyuz test project. So this is where, after the moon landings, they had a couple of Saturn V's and Apollo stuff left. So NASA and the Russian Space Agency did some things where they both shot up a rocket and they docked and shook hands and all that. Yeah. It was kind of a prelude, I guess, to the space station, you could say, and stuff like that. So that one has two of the ships that were used. And then this one might be interesting for people. This is the 1-400 space shuttle with the crawler. So
we have a price for that. The Apollo 11 Dragon kit, $120, 58 cents Canadian, from our good friends at Hobbyland Japan, just to give you an idea.
I've heard some good reviews. Now, the Dragon, the 1-400 space shuttle with the crawler transporter, that looks pretty cool. Yeah. So that's got the whole thing with the crawler. So, Yeah, this was built. There was 2 of these transporters they built. It was built by the Marion Power Shovel Company to transport U.S. spacecraft from the Vehicle Assembly Building to Launch Complex 39. So this was used for the Apollo's missions, and it was also used for the space shuttle. So this would come out from the assembly building with the
awesome.
spaceship under it, go
Yeah.
like 4 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Take 24 hours to get up there, and then. But the whole thing was interesting because when it had to go up the ramp, the thing would
pivot?
pivot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it
what
was
a
just-
neat, like,
yeah.
what an incredible vehicle, right? Like,
Yeah.
at that scale.
Yeah. Well, and this is why it's 1/400th.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty big. So again, that's those are coming out, I believe, in January 2020, from what I see from all 3 of those.
Yep. Just I have a December release for the Apollo.
Okay.
Is that-
Yeah.
did you
They've
say
been slowly
January or
bringing
December?
stuff out all year, so Dragon's got quite a few.
Yeah.
Next up, we have one that's kind of like be interesting. I've only seen in resin before. The MiG-31 Firefox. Now, this is the MiG-31 Firefox from the fictional universe, from a book and a movie. The book was by Craig Thomas.
Okay.
The movie came out in the early 80s.
Is it 81, I think?
81
with,
or something.
With Mr. Clint Eastwood.
Mr. Clint Eastwood. So basically, the premise was Firefox was a stealth-capable aircraft that could fly at Mach 5 and had a thought-guided weapon system. If you ever watch the movie,
Thought guy.
thought-guided weapon system. Now, the only thing about it, though,
Yeah.
this is the famous line from the movie.
Yeah.
When the Russian scientist is telling Clint about this, he says, "Okay, it's a thought-guided, but you must think in Russian." Everyone quotes that. If you
That's
ever see it, I know
awesome.
you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I
You'll
haven't
have
seen
to
it
see
yet. For years, I've wanted to see that
Yes,
film, and I
you
haven't.
must- you must
That
think-
sounds very Macross-like, because they
You must
have,
think in Russian.
of course.
And so it had
Yeah.
some very, the flight sequence is about half the movie, and it's, dated for the time, but
It's probably a lot of
premise,
fun.
yeah, it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. So
awesome.
they produced MiG-31s before, but only in resin. So this is the first injected molded
But there's a
kit.
real MiG-31 now.
The real
right?
MiG-31, yeah. So this was made way before
Yeah.
that. So the real MiG-31 is actually based on the MiG-25, the Foxbat.
Foxbat.
It just looks like a Fox. It looks like a Foxbat.
It's with the upgraded
Slightly
package.
upgraded engines and
Yeah.
all that. Yeah. So this one,
This is great.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
this is 1/144th because it was a fairly big aircraft.
Yeah. Obviously inspired by the Blackbird, like the curves.
The whole
and-
stealth thing, yeah. Again, this is before the stealth fighter. You knew about the stealth fighter and all that. So
Yeah,
this is,
that was all hidden away.
This was all hidden away. So this was, it was quite a very cool design.
Speculative kind of.
Yeah,
They knew
they actually
something's
produced.
going on.
Craig, the author, wrote a second book in the series, which is
yeah.
a good read as well. They never made it into a movie, but yeah, this is quite good. So 1/144th, our friends at HobbyLink Japan has it for $48 Canadian. Yeah, again, this is one if I ever see. I don't normally build in such a small scale, but this would be kind of cool to have to the collection.
At that scale, it's going to be simplistic.
A very simplistic, yeah.
So that can be a good thing. It can be a quick build.
Yep.
A more, a less intense
Oh
build.
yeah.
Or you're getting into it's frustrating because it's not the detail you want.
Oh, I know,
So
but like I
it's a sort
said,
of toss-up,
if you
right?
if you look like over the years, people have done resin ones.
I've seen resin versions of it around, but they're probably long gone.
Oh, they're still around. Like you can get them, but they're hard to find. I know.
So only on the secondhand market kind of thing.
Yeah, I know. Basically, someone did a 72nd and someone did a 48 scale.
Oh wow.
That would be bloody huge. So
Second,
Anagrad Craftswork did one in 1/48th.
Oh, Anagrand in 48 scale.
Yeah,
so it's a
in 2014.
monstro.
Yeah, that would be big.
Trademark Scalmo Podcast. I'm trying to get my own
I can
word
see
out there.
that. I can see that. So yeah, but yeah, a cool movie. Again, it's dated, but it's kind of cool.
I want one of those like the big rubber stamps where it's like boom
There it
monstro
goes.
when kit producers make that kit. It's so huge, it's gonna cost you an arm and a leg.
Monster Kill or something like that. Yeah, there you go.
Monstro.
So yeah, so that's
fun.
that is very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the news. Let's have a quick peek at what's hot at ScaleMates. Our good friends at ScaleMates.com.
Number one with a bullet.
Another one, the Vulcan. Of course, the P-38. A lot of stuff we've been
P-38.
talking about.
Yeah.
No real surprises
Has
here.
there been any feedback on the Vulcan since last we chatted?
No, because basically it's
No one's
just
seen
that's an initial mold. They had the initial
They let
resin.
people-
They had initial resin behind glass at Telvert.
Oh,
They were just showing, but they still have a lot of work. It's
Okay.
not out until next year.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So,
yeah,
but
2020.
yeah, so no, they're, even the rivet counters hopefully are at bay for now. So yeah, a lot of other ones. We talked about the Ford GT Mark II.
Yeah.
I see Kinetics changed parts. A Harrier GR1. They're going to come out with a 1/48 scale. Further along, the Spitfire. There's our large 8-barreled flak gun, the SMK-18.
Salvenmaschinen
Yeah.
Kanon.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, SMK-18. Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's kind of a wild looking thing.
Yep, Kodak, some more new tools, some things from Mirai, the Sherman, the Hong Kong model. Oh, here's one, the B26-50 Invader. I think we talked about it. It's from
Yes.
It's from ICM. It's one of the folks at our last IPMS London meeting had it. And it looked very nice.
Cool.
I managed to have a look in the box. So,
Awesome.
yeah, all sorts of good stuff there. Now, for you car guys, you got to get some of your kits into ScaleMates because we want to see more cars as well.
Yes. We are definitely...
It's a community thing. People have to contribute. Like, it's not...
Right, yeah, for this website to work, ScaleMates.
Yeah. We try and get...
I'd like to see what's going on in the car
I'm
world.
trying to reach out to some people that maybe we
Yeah.
can get like a car roving reporter. It's something I'm working on. If you're interested, let me know.
Yeah.
The other one I saw here was Trumpeter. Now it's change parts. It's a long track S-band acquisition radar. I can just imagine the photo etch on that would be pretty insane. So that's basically it. No, not a lot of news surprises.
Lots of good, nice, modern, fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
World War II, conflicts.
Exactly. Oh, there's your Tamiya Sheridan. Oh, someone had built one of those. I think Larry.
yeah,
I think our good friend
beautiful.
Larry Watson built one. He had it at the last club
Yep.
meeting.
He did a really nice job. I think he was still working on it when I
Yeah.
saw him at the AMPS meeting, but it looked amazing.
Yeah, it looked good.
Yeah.
So, exactly. So, okay, there we go. So that's that. Now let's get on to what's the scoop this week.
You know what? As it would work out, it's we're just following along with Moscato Hobby Models. He's just he's ramping up for this the Quaidloon Rao model kit. So we thought this was worthy of a scoop because he's set up a pre-order special. So if you've ever bought a resin kit, they are definitely a little bit more expensive because of the nature of the kit, the difficulty, the limited number, the cost of material. Okay. So he's got this it must be five days to go. December 1st is the cutoff for this pre-order special where you get that 70-second resin model kit for 400 Canadian
Now, how do you pronounce that? You said something different than what I see.
It's different every time.
I see here he has Quincy Row.
Quincy Row.
Quincy Row.
Yeah. So the actual subject is called the Quaidloon Rao or something like that. Yeah. But you know what? Which kind of, if you think about it, it's the alien bad guy. They're very hard to pronounce all those things, right? And I think intentionally because they're supposed to be very alien and exotic.
Alien sounding, and they're too busy trying to conquer Earth.
When you're putting out garage kits, you need to be a little bit conscious of just slapping full names on things. So he's got it as the Quincy Row.
Okay, I like it.
But I think the other neat thing about this is that if you order this kit before December, you get included the cockpit pilot bust figure.
Sweet.
Which is, you got to have the head kind of splits apart. You can see the driver.
Now, how big do you reckon this is going to be in 70 seconds?
This is going to be huge.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be
enormous. I figured it would be, right?
Yeah,
because this will be like a size of a Valkyrie in robot mode.
They're bigger.
They're bigger than
they
that,
kind of like dwarf the Valkyries.
Do they? Okay.
And that's quite.
I'm trying to remember that now. Yeah.
So in the 80s, when they were, this show was in its kind of heyday, they and there's a couple things going on there, but the Valkyries were done in 72nd because that's the plane scale, right? And the suit, the Quaidloon Rao suit was in 1 to 1/4 and it was still as big as a Valkyrie.
So it's double the size. Okay. So that's going to be big.
So this is going to be very
impressive. This is why the pre-order price is what it is at $400.
Yeah,
Canadian.
So you might
Makes
think,
sense.
wow, $400. That's
but you're getting a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, and this is going to be the other kind of thing where, like, if this is your thing and you're a fan, you're gonna get it, and then he's gonna make as many as the molds will allow.
And he's been, and
it'll disappear.
and we've been sharing that on our Facebook page.
Yeah, we're showing some updates.
Some of the Howie's production, and
it's
a fascinating
cool.
look behind the scenes. I should also point out Netflix, at least in Canada, they have the whole Robotech series. Right now,
yes, they do.
I'm slowly rewatching it.
Which is a great show.
Yeah, it is in its own way. Exactly.
You know what? I really love both. That, to be honest with you, Robotech was the very introduction to Japanese animation, which I'm really into.
Which a lot of people were into.
And also, it sort of drew me into model kits because Revell was doing Macross kits under the Robotech banner at that time. Yep. That's what I had available. I had one or two of those.
With me, I started by playing the board game BattleTech.
Ah, right.
That's how I started. So, exactly.
And I love that show. It was great.
So, so we're going to kind of keep up,
Yep. If that's your thing.
Moscato's a good friend of the show, so we're going to keep up with that. And
it's very neat to see the bat. He's really good at
the whole behind the scenes, and that's what I find fascinating. Yeah. Okay, so that's all the news and the scoops. So now a word from our sponsor. Oh yeah, I'm sitting right here in his office.
Here I am.
So what's happening these days at Goodman Models?
All right, I feel like I'm back in business. I got a new order of material in, and I'm, all the monkeys are working away. The Oompa Loompas
I noticed that when I came in, and you have the 28
children
transport
are working.
Trucks. Well, we don't actually hire children or animals, but I noticed the transport planes coming in, and it seems like every 10 minutes into the Goodman Models airfield.
Yeah, that's right. So I've got stock. I'm building, producing lots of sets. Super Saiyan blocks, value packs are back in stock, and singles are back in stock, and I will be refilling all of my suppliers very shortly, and they'll be at the shows that are upcoming for the winter season. So go check out goodmanmodels.com. You can order a set up. And
excellent.
I'm pretty sure I've updated all links.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have some new videos.
That's right.
A new video on maintenance for your Super Saiyan blocks, and nothing probably too mind-blowing, but it's nice to go over the basics with people.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I've been trying to build up some references, and I'm going to hopefully be doing soon some other videos, and maybe showing some more advanced stuff and ideas that you can apply.
I was actually on the weekend, I was cleaning up some of mine because they get used so often. And,
excellent.
Since I helped you film that, I got the inside scoop, so I made sure I followed that instructions, and they came out just looking absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, so now we're going to get on to our special interview. We were very fortunate to reach out way south in the other hemisphere, not as far as Australia, but New Zealand, land of the Kiwi and the Hobbits and Wingnut Wings.
Yes.
And we talked to Wingnut Wings, and we managed to get Jason McAdam, who's a product designer down there. And we had a really good interview. Yeah. Really good guy. And I'm not really going to say too much more because we basically said it all through the interview. So here we go. And we're back in the interview section here on the Scale Model Podcast, and we are really pleased. We have a very special guest tonight, and once again, Anthony's managed to score these amazing people for interviewing. We should also point out Anthony's got a bit of a cold tonight, so
I don't sound my normal.
You don't sound your normal self, or if you hear a great big thump, it means he's passed out, and I'll just continue. So anyway, we have a great guest. We have Jason McAdam, who's I should say, who's a product designer at Wingnut Wings. And I'm sure some people may have heard of them.
Who are those guys?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit. So why don't you go ahead and introduce with a quick bio?
So very exciting. Yeah, I think Wingnut Wings definitely one of the forerunners of the model world today, and we're very excited to have Jason with us tonight. So Jason was born in 1984 in Wellington, New Zealand. He attended Hutt College. He later studied industrial design at Victoria University of Wellington. And then upon graduating with his honors degree, he started to work with Wingnut Wings. And he's been there since early 2007. So 12 and a half years later, he's enjoying his work with the niche manufacturer more than ever, and is very excited about all the cool WW1 aviation releases that are coming out. While he's not a modeler in the true sense of the title, Jason has always loved the hobby. His granddad was an avid railroad scale modeler.
Hey, just like your dad.
In the HO, yeah. a ferroequinologist. I'll just put that out there. And his summers were spent watching his granddad craft wonderful layouts and putting together kits and train cars. And no sooner had he completed a layout than it was disassembled and work on the next layout was underway. Jason would frequently inherit vast collections of buildings from his granddad's old layouts, and these would see the family pool table transform into a train layout of his own with the help of some Triang trains and track that Jason's dad still had from his younger days. So it definitely runs in the family there. Jason hopes to create a small layout in the future using these old buildings that he still has. That's all, the best stuff, eh? You pull out those little treasures. Along with his dad's trains, but for now his modeling energies are 100% focused with Wingnut Wings. So welcome to the show, Jason.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Our pleasure. So we're gonna get right started.
Right into it.
Right into it. So give us a quick history of Wingnut Wings and how you got started with the company.
Sure. I think if people weren't aware, Wingnut Wings was created by Peter Jackson, who's the New Zealand filmmaker. And off the back of all his hard work with his films and the success he'd had with them, he was in the fortunate position to be able to, I suppose, take two passions of his, which was World War I aviation and the hobby industry, and kind of, unite them, put them together. Yeah. And from there, it was kind of, those things had always been something pretty close to him, and he saw it as an opportunity to I guess, make the type of aircraft that he'd always wanted in the way he'd always wanted. And that's kind of where Wingnut Wings started from. And the first work began back in early 2005.
Wow. Okay.
And I suppose, at the time it was kind of, Peter probably looked around at the industry and thought, well, I have all these really talented, creative kind of digital modelers, artists that are in I'm doing movie industry stuff. Maybe we can get a small group together and we can start to look at how this project might take shape. And that's kind of that's where it started from.
Very cool.
And so, in those early days, there was a lot of, trial and error, a lot of experimentation with different computer softwares about just how we're going to realize some of these different forms and actually, get this project going. And then going into 2006, that's when, things were getting a little bit more serious and they kind of were thinking, well, we're going to need a tooling and mold coordinator, someone to actually, who's got a bit of experience with designing stuff and getting stuff manufactured. And that's where Taffy came on board, who's got experience in that industry. And then a little bit later in 2006 is when Richard Alexander, our current general manager, he came on board to supervise the design and production. And he's also got a massive background, and he is a modeler, and a very good one. Awesome. So that's when things were getting pretty serious then. And then the shift, I suppose, also took place where the need for probably to have some designers on board with a more industrial design, product design background was required. So that's kind of, I suppose, where I started to enter into the equation, and that was in early 2007. So I'd just, as you mentioned earlier, I'd finished up in 2006, studied industrial design, had the summer off, which is kind of what you need to do after doing a 4-year design degree.
Yes.
They tend to be quite strenuous. So, and then thought, right, I got to start looking for some work, and put this 4-year degree to some use, and was going through the paper, and in the bottom corner there was just this tiny wee ad. Honestly, it mustn't have been much bigger than a postage stamp.
Wow.
And it was curiously vague, but it just kind of mentioned, we're looking for someone to do some CAD work, computer design, and there's kind of a historical research aspect to it as well, and to submit a portfolio to Weta Digital. And I was like, okay, well, you've got my attention.
Yeah, we all know what that name is. Yes.
Well, that's really cool.
So because obviously I was aware who Weta Digital were, and that they're obviously, they do all the work on the movies, but this just didn't have the sound of something movie orientated. So I was kind of like, yeah, okay. So I submitted a portfolio, and then it seemed pretty quick. Maybe within a week, I'd heard back saying, look, would you mind coming in for an interview, in a chat? And sure enough, it was at the Weta Digital, kind of their HQ, whatever, and one of their little offices there. And I think you got to remember at this time, Wingnut Wings it hadn't been released to the public,
Right.
It was still,
Okay.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
still all on. So possibly that's something I should have maybe highlighted a bit earlier on. But
that's great.
this was still under wraps, which is why the I guess the job description was so vague, and it wasn't like, hey, Wingnut Wings are looking for a product designer, because the project hadn't been made public yet, and even at the interview they still really couldn't tell me really too much about it. So Richard was there, and there was another gentleman, Matt Aitken from Weta Digital, who was kind of one of our, in those early days when Weta Digital was involved in pulling things together, one of the people that we dealt with. And so we just kind of talked about some of the stuff, some of my skills, some of the basic stuff you do at an interview. And I still really, I said, so, can you actually tell me, like, what am I going to be doing? And they weren't really able to elaborate too much more.
Wow.
The very few details that that tiny little job ad had, but they seemed pleased. So I thought, okay, cool. And they said, look, we'll get back to you. I thought, okay, great. And then it was probably a couple of days after that, they said, well, hey, if you want the job, it's yours. And I thought, well, great, cool, but I still don't know what I'm doing.
Wow.
And yeah, it was, incredibly, but I mean, in that situation, you're just so curious. You're just like, yeah, okay, I'm in. And then, so things all happened quite quick, and then the first day kind of came on in, and again too, I mean, it's not like, as you probably imagine, we're a pretty small operation, and whilst at the moment we are physically in a different location to where we were in those early days, it's not like we're in a palatial kind of glass facade building with Wingnut Wings on the top, with fountains out front or anything, and in those early days it was. We were just literally amongst one of the movie industry buildings, and we had a tiny little room in there.
Right.
And so kind of walking through, there was, there's no queues, and it literally wasn't until I stepped foot in the door and it was like, okay, this is Wingnut Wings. And this in April 2007, I think it was. And yeah, it was, and so it was still probably a couple of years, I think, from that point to the point where we kind of, we went public with our first 4 kits that we released. So that's kind of how things came about, and my involvement with Wingnut Wings came about, and it was, I suppose a wee bit unconventional, but a little bit cool as well.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty dreamy scenario for a new grad to come out and get into a really cool, interesting kind of mysterious job. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean at the time too, obviously I clearly didn't know much at all, but one of the things I did ask at the interview was, look, are you able to give me at least an indication on maybe how long this project might be going for? And they said, look, we can't give you a definitive answer, but they said maybe maybe 2 to 3 years worth of work, and
Awesome.
and I think at that stage, no one really had any idea that, how things would kind of grow. So, yeah, 12 and a half years later, and, still here and still going for it.
Yeah, really
Right.
cool. That's awesome. So, while we're talking about that, what is the best part of your job as a designer, and then maybe if you can elaborate on some of the not so best parts of the job.
Um, I mean, there's a lot of great aspects to it. I mean, I suppose at its core, part of it is I'm getting paid to kind of breathe life back into an era of aviation that I suppose that there kind of hasn't been.
Yeah, it's been sort of
such a
underrepresented.
knowledge. In terms of the model industry, it's probably definitely played second fiddle to the more contemporary eras of
Yes.
aviation. But
Yeah,
I think
sure.
in a much broader aspect too, just from a research point of view, I think some of the more well-known aircraft, let's say, I think what we've come to understand is that you do have a couple of authorities out there on them, but there's also a lot of I suppose things that people thought were truths about certain aircraft or things like that through the course of work here you kind of you unravel and you think actually no, this plane was a little bit different, or this was like this or like that. So I think that's certainly a great aspect to it, and I think we're very lucky in the way that we can work, and that and possibly it's not that practical for some of the bigger companies to work in this way, where we spend so much time on the research. That is a massive part
Yeah, it must be.
of what we do, and it's not just a case of we kind of read a couple of books at the start and we kind of go, okay, well, this is what these books say and this is what we are. Now we're just looking at stuff, and what we know then is that's it. That's all that's going to inform us on this particular aircraft. The whole way through, you're always researching. So I think we want these models to be as good as they can be, and for that reason, the research never stops, and it's something I find quite an enjoyable aspect to the job as well.
Right. So, in terms of the research, because that's a good segue, because we had a question about that. So, tell us a bit more about the research process. Like, how do you go about getting measurements, particularly for some of the older aircraft that maybe they don't longer exist except on plans or old photos, etc.
Yeah, it varies greatly from one aircraft to another. What good World War One photos? They are literally priceless.
Wow.
Because you can't dispute details that you see. So the start of a project, when it's decided, okay, we're going to look at this aircraft. It's got to be an aircraft that we've got enough reference material to make a decent model of, and then it's a case of we've got to go through all that reference material we've got, and like I say, it will vary. You will have occasionally you'll be lucky enough to possibly have some copies of original factory plans, but that's not that common, but it does happen. And then it will just be a range of, you'll have some World War One images. Peter does have access to it. He has a lot of kind of archives of images and stuff like that. We're also very lucky that kind of scattered across the globe, we have some people that are very good at contributing reference material to us.
Really?
Yeah, which is fantastic. And I mean, we are always receiving stuff too, like maybe someone's going through maybe a grandparents or a family members or a friend's They might come across an old album or something.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So
Good.
we're always getting stuff, which is why we want that research to be, it is such a big deal, and we want that to come across in the final products because I suppose, these aircraft are not just about, hopefully building an enjoyable model, but, we want people to be learning about these aircraft.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, it's a part of history.
yeah, totally. The more we learn, we can kind of, pass that on as well. You mentioned, there are museum examples of World War I aircraft around, and a reasonable number. It does vary a lot, again, as to how useful each of those airframes can be. As you can imagine, an airframe that's been sitting, well, it probably hasn't been sitting in one place for 100 years. It's probably moved through quite a few people's hands and maybe museums. There's possibly been times where it's been disassembled in some
Tinkered
warehouse
with.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, in all honesty, very rarely are these the state you see them in the museum is what they were like exactly when they were in service. Some aren't too bad. There are, if it's an original airframe, that can often be, very helpful because the details and stuff like that can be quite genuine. But I think maybe there might be a perception that if you've got a museum example of, let's say, a Fokker D7, or take your pick, that, oh, great, you just take a bunch of pictures and measurements and then, hey, presto,
It's not that simple.
You've got everything you need, and the reality couldn't be further from the truth.
Wow.
So, like I say, it's a case of understanding and looking at all that reference material. And a big part of it too is World War I aircraft. There is a huge amount of variation. Whether you say something like a Fokker D7. Well, you had at least 3 different manufacturers making that. You had the various iterations of when it first came out, to when it was much later in the war and its service. And I think for that reason, at the start of a project and when we're looking at all our research, it's really important that we have an idea about, okay, if there's huge amounts of variation, is this a case of we're going to do maybe a boxing for that manufacturer and a boxing for that manufacturer? Is it a case of, okay, there'll be an earlier version or a later version? We need to be aware of as much of this and as much detail as we can before we even start designing, because it informs us so much about how we design and the process we go through. So, that's when you also, even right at the start of the project, you are looking at potential schemes, because it may well be that maybe there was a really well-known pilot that flew this plane, or that plane had some amazing markings on it. But fundamentally, maybe that plane had an armament option or a cowling option that it made it a real one-off that, and sometimes we will do the one-offs, we are that crazy. But equally, these are things you need to be aware of as much as you can, right up front. And that's where the research is so critical, and knowing, going through everything you've got and categorizing it to the best that you can.
Sounds like a real treasure hunt.
It is. And when you're going through that process, and as you start to, things start to take shape, that's when you can, you might come across some real little gems about the aircraft that you think, God, this probably wasn't known. You feel like you've kind of unearthed something that maybe wasn't known, which is great.
Yeah, that sounds very rewarding.
You alluded to a little bit earlier about the like I say, and all in all, most aspects are really enjoyable. The things that I suppose can be a little bit frustrating sometimes is we are our own worst enemies when it comes to wanting to get things right, and so there will be occasions when we've engaged a tooling company to start, literally start cutting some steel, and we might just get come across some images, or some images get sent in, or maybe some plans. This has happened.
Yeah, that's always the way it happens.
We think to ourselves, what we want to do is just pretend this information never came across our desk.
And, you can't help it.
Send some hitman out to whoever sent us it. But ultimately, we'll go, okay, this information is too good to not do anything with. So maybe once we get our first test shots back, if we've already started tooling, we'll integrate changes as need be to reflect this new information. And so I think that aspect can be frustrating sometimes.
Sure.
But
it shows a real dedication to the craft as well, the willingness to go back and alter something, or kind of mid-step and then take a step back.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, it's something we like to avoid. But again, I think,
of course,
and again, I think going back to the earlier point where we are, like I say, we try and do everything as the most economical, efficient way we can. But we are quite lucky that the research and wanting to get these kits spot on, is so important, and it possibly does afford us opportunities that perhaps some of the bigger companies maybe don't, that they're not able to do once they're committed to a certain point. So we're very lucky in some regard as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, wonderful. Well, now that we've been talking about some of the processes that happen, are there any memorable projects or achievements that stand out for you that you're particularly proud of?
Well, look, there's a lot, well, there's a lot in the sense because every aircraft I've worked on has been really enjoyable and very challenging. And I think, once you've worked on quite a few and you feel like you've, I suppose, as a company and as an individual within, our little company, our little project, you feel like you've kind of honed your craft, and we're always continuously trying to, I suppose, push ourselves and evolve the way we work. But, you look at the early aircraft versus some of the later ones and how you do things now versus then. So they all kind of hold their own special place. I mean, when I think back to one of the early aircraft, the Fokker 7, which again, just has so much variation on it, and you're kind of confronted, this isn't just a case of designing a model. It's actually, how do we design a model that has 12 different cowl variations to it,
Right?
And wow, yeah, it's a challenge.
And then how that propagates through into the tooling. Okay, the sprues need to then be laid out in a way, and then the instructions then need to be done in a way. So I mean, from that point of view, very early on with the company, the Fokker 7 was a very challenging. The W29 was a great plane to work on. It's a German float plane.
Cool.
And again, a monoplane, massive wings, and I think I seem to like working on big aircraft. I worked on our Felixstowe, which was the big seaplane, and that was again that was really cool to work on.
Neat.
And our AEG G4s, I've been working very hard trying to get our Handipage 0100 and 0400s out the door, and they're getting really close. And again, I mean, they kind of almost the culmination of everything. There's variation. There's so much variation there in terms of actually the design and engineering to get this thing to kind of
to fold the wings.
Well, yeah, not to collapse on its own undercarriage and tail skid. So almost the design and engineering point of view has been really fascinating. And I also I find myself drawn to aircraft that kind of have maybe unconventional fuselage construction. I worked on our Roland D6A, which has this crazy kind of clinker overlapping wooden panel fuselage construction. And again, from a kind of design point of view, it interested me because I thought, well, how are we going to do this? and then more recently worked on did the work for our Junkers D1, which was the fully corrugated German monoplane.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yep, that was a great. Looks good.
Yeah.
And-
very cool.
And I think I first, it was really early on, that I got exposed to that aircraft, because I was doing some work, some photo etch work of all things, for our Junkers J1, which was one of our first releases.
Oh
So
yeah.
one of the first things I did with Wingnut Wings was actually did some detailed photo etch stuff for our Junkers J1.
Yep.
And whilst I was going through that process, came across, there was only a handful of pictures at the time on our I guess you call them our kind of computer database archives of the Junkers D1, and I just thought to myself, wow, if we ever do that plane, and at the time we didn't have enough reference, and it's debatable whether we had enough reference when we did it, but we managed to get it across the line. But
Awesome.
yeah, if we ever do that, man, I'd love to be involved in it. Just again, from that, just so, I guess, unconventional and unique compared to probably a lot of the more standard, I guess, kind of linen covered wooden or maybe steel tube framework that you have with most other World War One aircraft.
Mm.
So you don't feel like when you're designing the plastic kit to go together, you don't feel compelled to make it like the real airplane construction, right? It just has to look the part, and sort of be solid as a plastic kit.
Look, it's a bit of both. It needs to look
Yeah.
right where it needs to look right, if that makes
Right.
sense. So,
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, again, we don't want to spend time putting detail in areas that are never going to be seen,
Yes.
because
yeah.
that adds unnecessary complexity for the modeler. But equally, we
A lot
we
of it you can see on
we
these
still-
types of planes, right?
yeah, we still put a lot of detail, probably in areas where we don't have to. But it's a balancing act too, because ultimately, at 30-second scale, which is still a nice large scale, let's be honest, for aircraft.
Uh-huh.
But you still end up with some very fragile parts. So you want things to look real, but equally, you want them to go together really well. So
Yeah.
it's always a balancing act. And there's and I think that's probably one of the aspects that, after this amount of time, I feel that we've gotten pretty good at to be able to do and to be able to rationalize bits where we need to, and in areas where we need to just recreate them as close to reality as possible. We seem to be have that down pretty good now. But again,
Awesome.
every aircraft is so different that
It's a
every
new
aircraft,
challenge.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I've just recently finished the design work for our Hans and Brandenburg D1 Star Strutter, and that's been a really enjoyable project to be involved in too.
Cool.
And I think it's our first, I guess you'd say, proper Austro-Hungarian aircraft.
Right.
And that's I think hopefully in the way that our Junkers D1, we kind of felt that we've seen that's kind of appealed to maybe some people that were thinking, look, maybe I'd like to build a World War I aircraft, but I'm not. I'm for whatever reason, maybe I don't want to do the rigging or something like that. That it could be a nice.
Yeah. A lot of people, I think, are. Yeah,
Um,
they get intimidated by that.
Yeah, and that's which is a big topic in itself, in the sense that I think people should never let that be a reason not to build a World War I aircraft. You know what I mean?
Oh, for
And
sure.
It could be any any World War I aircraft, from any manufacturer. You know, if you like the Copper State Newport 17, don't let the fact that it has rigging put you off buying it. You know, I mean, build it and
Exactly.
enjoy it, and don't rig it if you don't want.
Well, and we've noticed, like on the website, like you say, for the W12, the Hanson Brandenburg, you even mentioned simple. The website mentions very simple rigging back from 2014. For example. So I think the company's doing quite a bit to try and encourage that. Yeah, it's something I've thought about. Where I've thought about building one. At some point I will. But yeah, the rigging can be off-putting. But again, I think you folks have made it as simple as possible, and I think more people are aware of it, which is a good segue, because you were you actually, for a non-modeler, I want to ask you about, because you went to the IPMS US Nationals in Chattanooga earlier this year. So as a admitted non-modeler, what did you think of NATS?
Oh, it was incredible. Yeah, it was really amazing to be a part of. So that was the first, it's the first IPMS show I had been to, and it was the first time Wingnut Wings as a company we'd attended an IPMS show in the USA. And
Cool.
I mean, it was amazing. Like I say, I mean, models and stuff of something. Well, obviously outside of Wingnut Wings, we've still attended, I guess, shows in New Zealand. So you go along. There's actually one very close to where I live that I go along to. So I mean, there's always great models built up, but the show and the IPMS in Chattanooga, that was just on an amazing new level. And obviously the shows we have in New Zealand are pale by comparison in terms of size.
Well, I would maybe by size, but you still have the skill level. We actually talked about fairly recently. IPMS New Zealand had their national show, and we actually covered that and talked about it. So
great
don't
pictures.
sell yourself short.
Yeah, great images coming out of that. So
absolutely, and I think whether it's a table of 10 models or 1,500, the quality is always there. I think with regards to the Chattanooga show, I think it was just a great 4 days, and to be honest, I could have stayed for another 4 days quite comfortably.
Awesome.
Because you get immersed in it, and it's a chance to just talk to people that love the hobby. Of course, you have people that are, I suppose, you also have people that like Wingnut Wings or the products, the kits we do, but it's just great to be able to talk to people. And I mean, we took a whole bunch of stuff that we were, releasing. We had Lancaster stuff with us, and Handley Page. We were able to announce and show the first test shop builds for our DR1s. So I think it's really cool in that regard. I mean, the reason we're still here doing what we're doing is the amazing support we've had. So the great thing about these shows is that you get to go along and for, I guess, talk to people that have, supported us really well and been really enthusiastic about what we do, and say, and show them firsthand kind of the stuff we're working on. And it's a chance, we had people picking up our Handley Page and Lancasters, these big kits, but that's what we want. It's a chance to interact on a much more personal level. And I mean, as I'm sure you can imagine, in New Zealand, you kind of, it's great, we're able to attend these shows from time to time, but, we're based in New Zealand. So a lot of that connection tends to be via the web and stuff like that. So these shows are amazing to just to have that more personal connection.
They really are.
Well, one of the things we're really hoping at some point, and because just down the road from us is the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum, and our sister chapter, IPMS Hamilton, they meet there, and we have Canada's largest model show. But that museum is also home to one of the only 2 flying Lancasters. So just a hint, sometime, you might want to suggest that to the powers that be. I think that would be an awesome thing if, especially once the Lancaster is released. Just, not that I'm trying to start anything.
Yeah, that is such an awesome bird, and it's really, I know it's close to both of our hearts, the Lancaster.
Well, I know it's close to Peter's and a few other people's.
Yeah.
So go on, Anthony. What's your next question?
Yeah. So, are you able to sort of contrast the way that Wingnut designs the plastic ball kits versus the old ways? Now, maybe you haven't come across that, but maybe you've heard kind of how things were done traditionally, or like 20 years ago, sort of before the inception of Wingnuts. There must be a lot of big differences about the way you guys tackle that process.
Do you mean in terms of like the methods like the old vac form kits, or versus injection
more
molding?
like using the design, like these days there's a lot of emphasis on CAD CAM and stuff like that.
Yeah, like it must be it's all drawn in 3D, right? And then you transfer it to the tooling.
Yeah. So I mean, as I kind of mentioned a bit earlier, the research up front is where things kick off, and that research never stops. From there, once you've kind of formed an idea about how things should be taking shape, an understanding of the variation within an aircraft, then it's very much about CAD software, and just it starts to take shape. The more you get up, the more you start to design, the more you start to focus on things, and you're confronted with an area of the aircraft that we've got to find a solution. What was happening here? So I think the research is ongoing. The CAD is always ongoing. Obviously, there's huge amounts of detail. Normally the start point in terms of the design is the engine. A lot of people will be aware that a lot of World War I aircraft will have not a lot, but it's not uncommon to have the same engine in different World War I aircraft, like the Mercedes D3, D3A engine gets used in a lot of German aircraft. So if we've got the engine already designed, then that gets brought into the CAD software, because your engine's very important. There are mounting points in the engine bay and stuff like that. If you've got an engine that's correct and right, then a lot can come off that. And let's say if you have very limited information in terms of credible World War I plans, then if you know the engine is right, you can actually start to kind of take proportions off of certain aspects, and there might be there might be little clues on an airframe that correlate with maybe a mount point for something to do with the engine. And if you can see that on the outside, and you say, well, we know the distance between that mount point and there was this distance, or that point, then that can actually go a long way towards actually informing you about other areas of the aircraft. If you don't have credible dimensions for those areas. So the engine's always
you're extrapolating some of the measurements from sort of known sources.
Totally. So that's a big part of it. So a lot of it.
What happens when you get when you run into an area where you don't have that point of reference? And is it back to the research to find some kind of hint to get you there, or how do you handle those sort of instances where you really get stuck on something, or there's no photographic evidence, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's always, in any aircraft, you're always going to have areas that you feel a little bit light on the ground in terms of reference for that area or that. It's generally, I mean, they tend not to be an area that's a showstopper. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have considered doing the plane to begin with. But it does. But it comes back to really small things like proportions. Like you might look at, let's say if it's an Allied aircraft, and so it could be something like the roundel on the side of a fuselage or a wing that we go, okay, well, let's project that. If we're getting stuck, we'll project that onto there. Maybe there's something in the area that just can give you a clue about something, and you might, it might seem quite trivial or mundane, or you think, nah, that's not going to tell us, but you do that, and then all of a sudden you go, oh wow, that edge is way off from where that should be, and then all of a sudden you go, okay, and it might direct you where to look, because quite often if something doesn't quite gelling, there's normally one or two things where it's stemming from. So there's any number of things you can sometimes do if you don't have a dimension or something like that can give you a clue. So you're often putting the detective hat on, and I think that's where it can be quite rewarding sometimes. Is you've really got to hunt and search, and I think again, we're really lucky that we place a lot of value on that research.
So it sounds like. Do you get to enjoy a bit more leeway with deadlines because of the sort of fundamental approach to building the kits?
Yes, is the short answer. Like I say, we're always trying to do things in the most efficient, economical ways as we can, and we're getting better at that. But then we don't tend to kind of go, okay, we've gotten kind of better and better at this. We look how much time we've saved. We've gotten better and better at that. So how much more can we add in now?
Right.
So
you'd rather have it done right and be like a month later.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a big difference between the way other producers of model kits or even in the past have done it, where they've said, you know what, we've got to get this to market before Christmas, for example. If it's not right, out it goes, or they don't know it's not right because they haven't spent the time. But obviously, Wingnut has a different approach to that.
To it. Again, excellent segue. So
go ahead. Like I say, it's definitely like I say, you're trying to be. It's certainly not an open-ended deadline. There are points where you kind of go. There is always a point where you say, look, we could keep trying to lift up every rock around to find new information, but we kind of have.
Point. You got to get it out.
Does Peter come around with a sword and say, "All right, boys, wrap it up"?
No, nothing like that. But yeah, I think we definitely do get a little bit afforded more time for that research. Yeah. But then again, it doesn't just stop at the plastic. I think if you've ever glanced through the instructions, all that is, so much time goes into that research.
Yeah, so and it really shows.
We want it to then filter through into the instructions. It's about, yes, it's informing us how that design in the plastic's going to be, but those instructions can also complement all that work too, and they probably should. There's no point spending all that time doing the research, if you're not going to, I guess, make the most out of it, and we might as well get as much mileage as we can, which is where the instructions are so.
Well, yeah, you folks have one of the best instructions, in my opinion, in the hobby right now. Artwork. It's an artwork in itself. Like it's just absolutely gorgeous and very clear. And when really you have the combination of showing the actual pictures and things like that,
it's something that the model builder. The buyer of the kit can really sink their teeth into. Exactly. And I know I always I love to look through the, you crack open a kit. It's the first thing you just want to really relish it.
First thing you check out. So for a company producing what many in the hobby once considered a niche, what sort of demand has there been? Now, I don't know if you can give us insights as to some actual numbers, but that's great. And then also, can you tell us if you can, what's the most popular release so far that Wingnut's produced?
Yeah, so I mean, I can't really discuss figures or anything like that, but I mean, it's certainly the World War I aviation, the modeling World War I aviation certainly is a niche, and I think what's been really encouraging is it's grown a heck of a lot.
Absolutely,
yeah,
and so, like I say, we're still here. It was 2005 when it kind of kicked off, and we're almost coming up 15 years. And
yeah, I know, hard to believe.
And I think that's possibly a testament in itself, that the demand is increasing, and that people are obviously there is a desire to to build models of these incredible aircraft. And I think hopefully, you know, with a lot of the aircraft we've managed to get out there so far, that people have seen that, wow, these are quite incredible aircraft. And
certainly, yeah, certainly that is the case. A lot of buzz has come out from the kit releases that we've noticed, and seeing a lot more of those subjects on the tables at shows is a really good indicator for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at too. I mean, I think also evidence of this growing demand is we're seeing multiple manufacturers now dipping their toes into World War I aviation. And
yes.
I mean, you've got the likes of Copper State Models now, and they've got their excellent Newport 17s. It seems like we've recently just been working on the same aircraft, which is the Hansa Brandenburg D1 Starstrutter, which of course, you know, the last thing you want to do is kind of step on each other's toes. But hey, it's an incredible little aircraft, and I think the fact that modelers are going to have a choice can't be a bad thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure both releases will be pretty popular, and it will at least mean that perhaps, you know, if we've done schemes that Copper State haven't done, then again there's more choice out there. So the fact that there is
a good
kind
thing.
of growing choice for World War I models is a sign that things are growing. You mentioned particular kits that have been quite popular for us.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of maybe what you consider your marquee aircraft, like of World War One, the Fokker D7s are obviously an aircraft that a lot of people are very familiar with. So they've been a very popular release for us. You know, Sopwith Camels and has done very well. And obviously we've finally announced we're doing a Fokker DR1s, which of course are very iconic aircraft of World War One.
Right.
So things like, I mean, we're anticipating that DR1 will be very popular. So those type of aircraft are always have been very good sellers. And of course, the Albatross D5 and the D5As have been incredibly popular.
Yeah, we actually just covered your announcement about how you're coming out with, I think, what is it, 5 or 6 different releases with like 5 or 6 decal schemes per box. 30 different options in all, I believe.
Yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound. Eh?
Well,
so,
and you know what we joked about, you know, at least someone out there is going to buy 30 kits.
Yeah, it's great to offer options like that, though.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
Yeah, well, like I say, we're very aware that that's been a very popular aircraft, and there are a heck of a lot of schemes and units that aircraft serve with. So there were certainly more options there. So it's nice to be able to, I suppose, fill that demand. In terms of other aircraft, like the Junkers D1, we've found has been. We were really unsure actually how that would be received, because it virtually has no, and it's debatable whether it saw any combat service in World War One.
Really?
It came out so late in the war, and you know, it didn't really have any notable notable pilots or, you know, aces in that regard. And so in terms of a lot of things that resonate with a lot of people in terms of what makes a World War One aircraft popular, we were kind of like, I don't know about this one. And of course it's quite polarizing in its fully corrugated appearance. So we was really unsure, but
it's one of the ones I like because there's hardly any rigging.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite unique.
It has proved to be very popular for that reason. A lot of people that haven't built a Wingnut Wings kit have thought, you know what, I'm going to give this one a go, because I mean, there aren't too many parts to it. There's still lots of lavish detail there for you to go to town on. And again, the whole rigging thing, which again, I think, like you said before, we've got some really good tips up on the website, and it's just about keeping it simple. And one thing that actually became was really noticeable from talking with people at the show when the aspect of rigging came up. There was a lot of people that were kind of like, look, I was a little bit hesitant, and I'd kind of held off, and I'd bought one of your kits, and then I just thought, sod it, I'm just gonna build it. And they'd put the rigging up there on this kind of pedestal, and then they did it, and they were like, oh,
it's not so bad. Yeah,
that was a piece of cake.
Now, isn't that true for every little niche modeling task or those intimidating things that you just got to jump into it, you'll figure it out.
I just think it's funny you mentioned that one because that was one kit because there's a couple there I would really consider getting.
That's the one,
and that is one of them. That's one of several. I like the monoplanes from back then. I love the World War I model planes.
It's very unique look, especially for that Junkers.
So let's move a little bit from World War I to World War II, and Anthony's got the next question.
Sure, yeah. So of course we were all abuzz about the Lancaster release.
Very exciting.
We still like to talk about that wherever we can.
We do.
Will there be any additional World War II subjects coming along, or was that just strictly a passion project for Peter?
Because I know Peter's a big fan of the Dam Busters, and he's got the rights.
Are you able to shed any light on that?
I can, and that very much was a bit of a one-off project. I think, as is probably known to a certain extent, that the Dam Buster raids did kind of hold a bit of an interest with Peter, and that's kind of how the model came about. I guess. He kind of was like, well, I've got Wingnut Wings who make these model planes, and I'm I have the Lancaster as an aircraft that holds a lot of interest for me. I could have a really awesome Lancaster model.
It's one of the advantages when you own the company.
Yeah. So I think that really was a one-off, and there was. Certainly, there was a lot of people in Chattanooga that were expressing those same sentiments, and I had to bring them down gently.
Oh dear!
But I think
we have this beautiful Dam Buster to work on, so that should take up a few minutes of time, right?
Well, I have to admit, one of the other things we really like some people here, because there's a lot of people that love these larger scale aircraft, but like myself, and I've said this before on the show, I just don't have the room. But I love the fact that you're going to be releasing after that just the nose section of a Lancaster.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Really good idea
for the budget or space conscious consumer.
Yeah, well, I think it's certainly not lost on us the fact that these aircraft are large, and as much as some people would like them, you just physically don't have room for some of them. So I think it was always something that was going to be on the cards and planned right from the outset, for that very reason. And I think there's actually, going to see so many applications. It's not just going to be people that probably don't have room for the full kit. I had so many people coming up to me at the show saying, I've got some great diorama plans for just the nose. And then I'm going to build for the full kit. This is the one I like, but then there's also a couple of other Lancaster bombers that, I kind of, perhaps they know a bit about that particular aircraft, or they might have even family. So they're going to go, look, I'm going to get the nose, and it's just going to be the nose of that aircraft. So, I think there's going to be a lot of applications for it. And I mean, it is it's a proper kit in itself. There is so much detail in that nose that it's still, compared to the full aircraft, it might look small, but it's a proper little kit in itself. And I think modelers are going to get a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, from what I've seen so far, from being inside a real one, like the one we have here in Canada, managing to get inside that a couple of times over the years, you've really got it. You've got it down from what I've seen of the test shots already in that. So, I think it's going to be really, really awesome. So we're just about to wrap this up. We always ask 2 questions at the end. So I'm going to ask the first one. where do you see the hobby in terms of 5 to 10 years out? And what do you think the future has in store for Wingnut Wings in terms of where do you see yourself in the company?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I don't have a crystal ball in front of me either, so I mean,
I keep
look,
looking for one, but I can't find anyone with one.
look, yeah, I wish I could give you a definitive answer. What I can
That's
say
okay.
is that, like I say, we've been certainly hugely encouraged with the support and the enthusiasm that we've had, I suppose, as a company, but then that you see in general for World War One aviation, within the model industry. So I want to believe that that enthusiasm, that's certainly very apparent, is hopefully going to only increase, and
Oh, definitely.
that will hopefully allow us to keep doing what we're doing. The fact that we've done aircraft like a Gotha UWD, which is that quite extraordinary looking German float plane.
Yeah.
That got released with the Gotha G1, as a sign that we're kind of prepared to do some pretty crazy subjects. So, look, it's heading in the right direction, and the support we've had has been amazing. And certainly, from our point of view, we're doing Fokker DR1s now. So I mean, that's there were kind of I think early on, we were kind of, it seemed like we were kind of heading towards doing the more less well-known aircraft, because to be fair, other manufacturers had actually done a pretty good job at some of the more well-known ones. So we were kind of thinking, well, we'll just go with the more less well-known ones. But we're also starting to look at, I don't want to say the more mainstream ones, but maybe some of the more iconic ones.
More well-known subjects.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I can certainly say that that's a theme that is continuing. And whilst I can't be really any more specific than that, again, it's in terms of Wingnut Wings, that's probably a sign that we're continuing to expand. If it's a World War One aircraft, basically don't rule it out.
Right.
Wow,
cool.
With the support we've been having, and like I say, the support that genre of aircraft is getting within the hobby, it's all heading in the right direction. So yeah, hopefully that means we can keep doing what we're doing.
Awesome. And do you expect to sort of continue on with the design role in the company, or do you have any plans for yourself do you see yourself doing something different or moving on to different types of projects?
Well, I mean, Wingnut Wings, we're World War One aviation. So I mean, if you're doing design work in Wingnut Wings, you're doing World War One aircraft. No, I love what I do, and
Awesome.
And I think if I'd had any idea when I was going through doing my design degree that I'd be where I am now doing what I'm doing for a job, I probably would have to pinch myself, because it's it's an amazing thing to be a part of. It really is.
Oh, that's awesome.
In terms of, I think there's a huge amount of kind of, I mean, there's obviously the variety with the different World War One aircraft we do, but as a designer, you're involved right from the outset with the research, and then obviously the design of the plastic. But we design the photo etch parts, we lay them out, and we also do all the instruction work for the assembly sequences, because we know all of those kind of quirky details and the differences. So
you get to sort of see the whole different stages of the full project.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably something that makes my job really enjoyable, is that we are a small little team, and because of that, we're just so much involved with a massive part of every project. And so you're just not doing the research, you're just not doing designing the parts,
Right.
you're just not doing instructions or photo etch. as a product designer, it's from start to end, and then we'll get the test shots and for something that's been tooled, and then we're putting them together at the same time. You're making sure that works. You've got to then be making sure your instructions are correct, and that you're not going to steer a modeler into a corner that they're not going to be able to get out of.
And we appreciate that.
and I think that's definitely one of our strengths too, because when you're involved from start to finish, I think it hopefully gives us the ability to catch anything, and catch those errors. It's not like we're passing it on
to somebody
the next
else
stage. Every time you pass something on, and that's it's applicable for any in any job or any field, there's always a chance for stuff to get lost. The fact that from start to finish, we're so heavily involved with that entire process, it's a very enjoyable thing, but hopefully it also means that the end product is that much better for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And our final question that we always end every interview with is, what's on your bench?
And we realize that you are a model railroader, but that's okay.
It doesn't matter if it's work related, if it's your own personal kind of project, but anything you've been working on, actually getting your hands dirty, busting out the glue and the paint.
We are here to the dark side.
Well, look, I mean, my modeling bench is typically my workbench, and so there's my desk is covered with Handley Page test builds at the moment.
Cool.
So the third one at the moment. So I'll answer this from I guess a more professional from my work side of things. So yeah, it's lots of Handley Pages at the moment. And they're getting really close as well, which is really good.
Excellent.
It was. You mentioned the Grandad's Railroad layouts. I was actually doing a bit of a clear out in the garage and came across a bunch of the boxes that have some of these old buildings, and it definitely does get the cogs going. Where you think, but space is a bit of a premium at the moment. But
of course, always.
That's going to be something that definitely one day I'd love to do. I've still my grandma has still got my granddad scratch built this massive kind of like a ferry boat. It was based off of one of the Inter-Islander boats that goes between South Island and New Zealand, and he had that for one of his railway layouts, and she's still got that up. And I would love to do something with that as well, like with whatever I do. But yeah, that's certainly something for the future. Like I say, it tends to be all dedicated to the Wingnut Wings side of things at the moment.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Well, once again, we really appreciate you joining us today on the podcast, and I know our listeners are really going to get quite a bit out of this.
Yes, it's a deep dive.
Well, and again, Wingnut Wings is so highly regarded in the community and the industry. So we really appreciate you joining us today, Jason.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Again, a very deep insight into how it all works.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for having me on, and thanks a lot for everyone that listens to the podcast that has been giving us such great support and enthusiasm, and hopefully our up-and-coming releases, some of which you're aware of, some of which you're not, will be to your liking.
Awesome. Well, if anyone asks, we will say you were very good and didn't divulge anything. If your boss contacts us, you were very good at that, mate. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you again.
All right, cheers, guys.
So wasn't that a great interview?
Very fascinating. And what a great guy, because funny story that we can let the listeners in on. Mm-hmm. So I was organizing this, and
you did a great job.
I got the days, the time difference mixed up.
Yes. We had to explain to Anthony they're ahead. They're always ahead.
I thought they were behind. So I think, Stuart, did you come over? Oh, you were ready.
No, we were about ready, and then we kind of had a pause, and we went, wait a minute.
Yeah, and then poor Jason, he sent me a message, and I didn't see it, and he's like, because he was on his lunch break
Lunchtime,
in
yeah.
the office,
Yeah.
and I think they set him up.
So I think they're like 14 hours ahead.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Always
And,
ahead.
and the poor guy was like, "I'm waiting for you. Where are you?" And I was
I'm
not,
sure it hasn't been the first time.
not thinking about it. I wasn't online at all to respond. And then the
Yeah.
next day, I was like, "Hey, how's it going? Ready to meet up?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, I can do it
Guess
today."
Today's Tuesday now.
So
Yeah.
very graciously
Yep.
adjusted his schedule to accommodate
Yeah.
us, and we appreciate
We
that.
really appreciate it. Yeah, they were really good. Okay, I wanted to touch upon another topic here. I noticed here Steve Brown, who publishes a blog called Scale Model Soup, and I've quoted him before. He's always got some good stuff, particularly on the whole
Yeah.
buying, selling, stuff like that. Stash
management.
Yeah. I really like some of his stuff. He's also a great kit builder, don't you know. So he posted this last Friday.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so basically called It's Not a Seller's Market. And he
Right.
basically, I've been slowly downsizing my stash, and I'm learning it's not a seller's market out there.
No.
He recently listed some models and got no offers.
But has it ever been
Well, this is what's interesting. So he then went to Facebook,
yeah.
and here are a few examples. And an Atari Jaguar with Edouard decals, $4. And now he doesn't give scales, sadly, but you know, I'm pretty sure most of these are 48. Airfix Spit Mark 22 with Edouard decals, $11.
that was a sold price.
Yeah. Hobby Boss
eBay?
T50 with Res IM details, $8. An Atari Sukhoi with some extra photo etch. Didn't get a sale. So he kind of had a quick search through completed sales. So he looked at completed sales.
Completed, yeah.
Which
Then
is
you
all
see
which you got to search
people
for.
laid money down
Yeah.
for it.
So he's saying Hasegawa 1/72nd scale Phantoms, which used to sell in excess of 30,
Yeah.
are routinely selling for under that. Trumpeter
Right.
135th Armor can be scooped up for around 20. Trumpeter 40th Aircraft are under 20.
Yeah.
And similarly, Hasegawa 140th are under 20.
Yeah.
Now he's looking at auction prices, not the
Okay.
retail price, but
Yeah.
he's saying he's noticing this trend, and I've noticed the trend too. There's a
Yes.
lot of models listed on the forums and Facebooks that aren't selling. Now, I reposted this. I shared this link to our community, and a couple of people commented, including Mark Stevens at Gale Hobbies. Mark, I'm going to reach out to you at some point, but he kind of really went through. Now, he obviously is in the business. He sells, he sometimes picks up estates. Okay, now he's
Yes.
saying here, I'm going to summarize it. Comment around personal stashes. I have found that there are more people than I realize looking to power down their stashes and sell off at bulk. Not talking small stashes. He's seen several recently in the thousands. Now,
Can I interject? I'll give you a little story. A couple weeks ago, I was up at the Dave Brown seminar at Wheels and Wings in Toronto, which is amazing. Love that place. And I was talking to one of the guys there, and where we were doing the seminar was it was like somebody had taken a wall of model kits and pushed it to the side, set the
Okay.
table up. So they had purchased an estate sale of like used kits, I suppose, but like they're unbuilt but sort of not new. You know what I mean? Of all genre. 14,000 kits. So, okay,
this is one guy?
that was a collection that was purchased. So they do that there. They
Yep.
look for.
They do that, yes, I know
They have
that.
they
Yep.
have a secondhand area. They have
Yep.
all the new goodies, and 14,000 kits. So it's very easy to get in the mode of like, hey, that looks amazing. I'll pick it up.
So yeah, and that's the thing now. So I wanted to kind of have 2 points. So Mark here really kind of went behind the scenes, and I'm really pleased.
Yeah.
I want to get him on the show sometime.
Okay.
But he talks about, because people say, oh, you could sell them, but they got pennies on the dollars. But you have to realize these people have to stay in business too. So he basically says, I for one know the feeling, but a much, much lower scale. My limit is 5 to 10 kits at any one time. When negotiating at the end of the day, I'm not going to go through every kit and assess a value. I'm going to flat rate it per box and walk out with, let's say, 50 kits at the average price of $10. It's then up for me to get my return of investment off that. He's in the Houston market alone. I have met several collectors with over 500 plus kits.
Yeah.
So he says, it's basically a large resale market on that. Now, he does say, like, for example, Gundam market has been able to beat this with very limited production runs. So when I get a
Yes.
Gundam kit, he lists it at MSRP. So anyway, I put a link up to his reply. It's worth reading, people.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, it was funny because the week before, this came out on the Friday, we had our model club meeting the Wednesday before. And I remember talking to someone about it, and I've been talking about this for a while, like estate planning and people with these large collections.
Yeah.
And one of the things I realize is I go to shows and that, people talk about, we have the golden age of, all these kits. Well,
Sure.
Guess what? People coming into the hobby now, they may not want to buy one of 700 different model kits of Spitfires made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
No.
They may want to buy a new tool one.
I think if you're entering, you are looking at what is out today, and that's what's catching your attention,
Exactly.
right? And, like the golden age, well, it was the dark ages before, right?
Well,
so
and you know what?
They're still
And I think that's the problem. And this is,
it's tough to separate, like, hey, I spent $50 on this when it came out in 1995.
yeah. And
When
Steve,
it was top of the line.
Yeah, and Steve Brown makes a good point. He's
Yeah.
talked about this before about stashes and that, and unrealistic pricing. Like, if you can find someone willing to pay top dollar for a kit from, let's say, Monogram or Frog or whatever, it was considered state of the art, that's great. But there's so many of them out there. And I swear when I go to shows, this is what I often describe, shows are like garage sales. We used to joke about garage sales. It's essentially, and I'm saying this tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
It's the same crap goes from this person's house to this person's house to this person's house. It goes in a complete circle. And if you go...
I love them.
Again, there's great deals. The people that do it are great folks. But if you look, it's a lot of older
Same
stuff.
that doesn't
And you have
reappears
to-
year after year.
You
because
have to
it's-
price realistically. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. I love
think
some of the
it's-
old stuff.
It's very tough in our mind to separate. This is our entertainment,
Well, it's
as
the
well as
stuff.
our passion.
It's stuff.
Yeah,
And this is what
but
I've
it's
talked about
entertainment
before.
stuff.
Yeah, it is.
It's not investment, and you shouldn't
And
treat that
that's
way.
what
or
I
you're
think
gonna
people
get
have to
burned.
realize. It's like
Yeah.
we've talked about the baby boomers and their Limoges China and stuff like that. You and I have talked offline about that.
Yeah,
But I think it's something to realize. Yeah, there will be a point where, there's certain kits, like people love collecting Matchbox kits, let's say. There's people that buy it for collecting.
there are very valuable,
But again,
rare kits.
in the eye of the buyer. But let's say there's some other people that love Monogram. They love collecting Monogram.
Sure.
But are they going to build it? Are they going to, and this is where it comes down to. If you're looking for a bargain versus,
Oh yeah,
and there was so many, and this is what we talk about. Like back when there was model kits in drugstores, department stores, stuff like that. I don't know what the production runs were like back then.
Probably
Like if Monogram, let's say Monogram made an F4 Phantom in 1/48 scale.
Yeah.
Who knows how many were there? But how many F4 Phantoms have come out since, let's say, 60s
probably 100.
that are a better quality?
Yeah. Well, there every year
Potentially,
there's
yeah.
better technology and you get a better product, but I think it's definitely a bit of folly to think, you know what, I'm gonna.
And I think
you should buy it because you want to
yeah,
build it.
and I think it's sometimes disappointing when you see, again, people have to make a profit. Don't get me wrong. I have great respect for the
retail market?
secondhand
Yeah.
market that does that.
Yeah.
But at times, I swear you see people at shows,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems to be the same kits, the same price. They never adjust on price, and they're not moving.
Well, I think it's important, and I think a lot of people realize this. When you go to the show, right, it's all about the haggle.
Yeah.
It's all about the fun.
But
of
there is some
finding
people that
rare
don't
thing.
haggle, though. But there's some people that
Yeah,
don't
well,
haggle.
Then they're either going to get their buyer
and that's what I'm
right?
saying. You see the
Yeah.
same, and again, he's talked about before. I remember a couple of, probably last year, he had a blog post where he's talking about people selling kits for unrealistic prices.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
an open kit missing decals, and they're trying to sell it for you can get it new.
the reality is that no one's going to buy that.
No.
Right? And it doesn't really matter.
And then, but what gets
Yeah.
me is people complain about, you can't, you got to be realistic about it. It's the same thing in the model train world.
If you want to sell the stuff,
Yeah.
you got to be realistic
Yeah.
about it. And I think there are people who do make it their business to seek out those rare kits, and then they can make some profit on it. And I've done it once or twice,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like just
But
by kind of happenstance.
I think it's
but-
interesting as well, though, because, there is, and we've talked about this. One thing I realized years ago, there is two hobbies. There's building and there's
Yeah.
collecting. But like any collection, I highly recommend folks.
It's not an investment.
Well, don't even investment, but if you've got a large collection like that, no
Yeah.
matter what it is, model kits, model trains,
Yeah.
my wife collects Barbies, do some estate planning to at least make
Yeah, figure out what should
what
be done
you
with
want
it.
to do with it
Yeah.
afterwards, because there's so many times we hear about that. And, and a lot of times, you may have someone come in, an estate specialist who will give you pennies on the dollars. But if you know which
But that's
kits,
how that works.
yeah. But if you
Right.
also know that there's certain kits you can get a good deal for,
Yeah.
for the family, at least
Right. That's sort
let
of
people
true.
know.
It's true of a lot of things. That if you're selling something in bulk,
Yeah.
you are not making as much.
No,
But you get
the
rid of
idea
it
is
and
you're
you
getting
get a
rid
sum
of
of
it.
money.
But there's nothing wrong to
But if you
plan
break it
and
apart,
say,
it takes you
right.
50 years to get.
Yeah, but there's
full-
nothing wrong to plan and say, okay,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
whether it's model kits or like model trains, you can say, okay, all these just get what you can, but this kit, and this kit,
Yeah.
you will get higher money sell separately.
Yeah.
And make those plans.
Sure.
I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Like we've been lucky over the years in our club, we've had people unfortunately pass away. The members of the club have helped the family.
Yeah.
with
So that
those.
becomes quite a big job.
It's a
too,
burden, and this is
yeah.
so as much planning as you
burden.
can do. Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
one thing I've always tried to tell people. So I just
Yeah,
wanted
it's very
to
interesting.
point that out. And again, the commentary is quite good. And as I said, I really appreciate Mark chiming in there. And he's someone I am gonna reach out to. And thank you for everyone who commented on that.
It's a
on
very
that
interesting
thread.
discussion.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones I thought would be interesting to note.
Yeah.
Okay, talking tools.
Talking
We're talking
tools.
machinist squares tonight.
Yeah.
Do tell, my friend.
Okay, yeah, I guess this was sort of my pick. But so the machinist square is like that. It's that classic square.
Mm-hmm.
But the machinist style ones are metal and they tend to be smaller.
Okay.
So I got a great set on sale. Oh my goodness, I'm not even sure. Is that a 3-inch? It was like a 3-inch and a 4-inch and
Yeah,
maybe a
we're
6-inch.
gonna have a photo on the website.
Yeah, they're quite small.
Mm-hmm.
I got them on special at Busy Bee, which is like a tool
A little
shop.
tool shop.
Oh, it's amazing.
Dangerous tool shop.
Yeah, I don't know if that's worldwide or in the States, but we have them here in
Okay.
Canada.
Here in Canada, yeah.
It's a tool shop. They have great sales and a little flyer. So I went on a sale. And I think I got like a set of 4 of them for $25.
Wow, good deal.
Right? Great deal.
It'll last your lifetime.
Yeah, and I took the largest one out to my actual tools,
Yeah.
and then the little small guys I keep in my kind of workshop
Right.
here where we're sitting.
Right.
And man, those things are great.
Mm-hmm.
Cutting sheet stock, right? Checking squareness on things
Mm-hmm.
as you're working on it, and the best use of all I found was it comes from Paul Budzig.
Yep.
He had a little video talking about how he took a sheet of acrylic
Mm-hmm.
and he squared, and I happen to have some.
You happen to have some.
Go
There you
figure.
go.
And I squared it up, and
Mm-hmm.
then because of the machinist square had obviously it's a 90-degree angle, but the one side is thicker, so you
Okay.
can actually line it up with the the baseline of the piece you're working with or
Mm-hmm.
from. And so on this piece of acrylic, you set it on your bench, and when you put the square on, it actually lines up and kind of overhangs a bit.
Okay.
So then you're cutting something. For example, you want to cut some Tamiya tape for masking, or you want to make straps out of tape or whatever.
Right.
You just have this beautifully square measuring system at your disposal to cut against. And it was an awesome little thing, easy little project to make, and I love it. I use it all the time.
Very cool.
So that's our
That's your thing. We'll
pick
have,
up some machinist
we'll have a
squares.
couple of pictures there.
Yeah.
Okay, what's on the bench? So I'll start.
Yeah.
Finished my Star Wars Superstar Destroyer.
Very nice.
Nice little quick build, went together really well.
Nice
Very
to have
happy
one under
with
the
it.
belt.
Yeah, it's good. And so I really had a hard time deciding because I've really kind of culled down the stash. And I'm down to stuff I really want to build. So I had a devil of a time. So in the end,
It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. So
Are you under 100?
Oh, way under 100.
Under 50.
Under 50, easily.
You're beating me.
Easily. I'm trying to think now. I'm trying
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, under 50. Definitely under 50. But probably roughly, yours and our stashes are probably roughly the same size.
Good.
So I did decide on the Space, this is a reissue, the Space 1999, from Space 1999, the Hawk Mark 9 in 1/72nd scale. This appeared in one episode called War Games of the late 70s TV series. It was issued, I think, 2 years ago or last year. Nice looking kit. I've always wanted it. Airfix did one years ago.
But probably is not very good.
It's dated,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've done that. I've actually I've done an unboxing video and I've done some photos. I got to get that up on the blog. But yeah, I'm going to start with that. Going to have some fun with that with some what if colors. The actual kit comes with, in the episode, they're in like an orange and aluminum color. And then they have a production one, which was never like a normal gray.
So it almost sounds like a search and rescue color scheme.
Well, almost. But you know what? I think I'm going to do a purple, a dark purple. I think it's going to look really good, just for something different.
Sure.
And if it annoys the rivet counter, so be it.
How dare you?
Yeah, exactly. So just started that. The Edward Spitfire is right now on the shelf of doom. Because
It's dogging you a little bit, isn't it?
I went back to it, and it comes with two types of canopy, open and closed. So I was going to do the opened, and then much like Photo Etch, the canopy decided to ping out of the tweezers.
It's rough.
Go somewhere into hyperspace. I still haven't found it. I haven't stepped on
You'd
it
think
yet.
we buy those mall railroad aprons that look
I know.
so terribly
I know.
cheesy.
But the thing is, I don't have a carpet, so it's like it should find it, but it's under something.
Somewhere.
So I went, okay, I'll get the closed one. Well, I went to try and test fit the closed one, and I must have built the cockpit and placed the cockpit so the bulletproof backplate is a fraction too high.
Oh no.
So it's like there was much language.
Oopsie.
Yeah. So for now, it's going on the shelf of doom along with the, what do I have? I have the Hasegawa 72nd Lancaster. Notice the trend there in scales. And I've got a Airfix Lifeboat 1/72nd scale.
Yeah.
That needs to be. So those three are on there for now, which is
A
fine.
lifeboat.
Yeah, so Airfix, so in England, there is the lifeboats. So Royal National Lifeboat Institute, they're actually an all-volunteer organization. And they've got a series of, they've been around for like years, way before the Coast Guard was formed and everything.
Okay.
This is an all-volunteer organization, and they've built several lifeboats, so their own design. So I bought one
Severn
a couple-
class lifeboat.
Severn class lifeboat.
Sweet.
So yeah, very, very famous. Again, these guys are like volunteer firefighters.
Okay.
The pages go off and they go and launch and they go out and everything.
Oh, I love it. It's
Yeah,
very
very,
colorful.
very famous.
Okay, it's sour colors. Yeah. It's awesome.
So again, I started building it a while back. Airfix, it was kind of a soft plastic, and I got kind of hung up on a few things. At some point, I'll return to it. But
Yeah.
Anyway, so for now, I'm trying to keep to one at a time. So yeah, looking forward to this.
Nice. So a few
All right.
interesting things on.
And what have you got?
On the go. Well, my list hasn't changed actually
much. That's all
quite a
right.
bit. So I have been working on the Musaru Cup Challenge Cup.
The lads will be
Oh
pleased
my
to know.
goodness! Oh, it's just torture. It's such a terrible. Like the fit's not good.
But the lads will be
and,
proud of you. The lads will be proud of
Oh,
you.
it's just beating me up.
I know, that's
but
all right.
it will be done. I actually whipped up a base for it.
Yeah, it looks good.
We were looking at, and I think the base leaves a little bit of room for perhaps a
Some personalization.
maybe an
Yeah.
inscription of sorts.
We'll figure something out.
Something
I'm sure we'll figure
to
something out.
commemorate the event.
Commemorate the event, yes. Yes.
It's just a piece of
the
garbage.
target is
Aye.
we are going to have it done before Dave arrives.
Sure, yes,
winter.
it'll happen. So it's coming.
Yeah, but
And-
it'll be even if I'm driving down the 403 to Hamilton to the museum. Anthony will be in the background
It'll be done.
finishing it.
It will happen.
Yeah.
So it's coming.
Okay.
And yeah, I finished the, what do you call it, the under the chassis and all the
Undercarriage.
Undercarriage.
Yeah, actually, I was going to comment on you. You posted
all the
did
wrong terminology.
Well, it was funny just because it made me stop for a second. Someone posted a car kit, the underside, and you commented saying what color was the undercarriage. And I'm thinking undercarriages are for airplanes, not for
Well,
cars.
yeah, like she had paint. She did a beautiful job.
Oh, it was a beautiful job.
She's a pro.
It kind of made me pause for a minute.
Yeah, I was just really. She just got a bang on finish.
Oh, she
that
did. Okay.
that modeler. I've seen her stuff come up and it's really good.
I just
Her
it kind of made
photography's
me
really
pause
sweet
for
too.
a second.
Yeah.
I kind of had to.
I don't know,
It's
it's
our
not an
Anthony.
undercarriage. Yeah, I don't know.
That's
I
fine.
want to know because
That's
maybe mine should be painted that color. We'll find
There you
out.
go.
It's weird because I don't know a lot of like
That's all right.
terminology and stuff. So I'm like, ay,
I just think when I think
Yeah.
undercarriage, for me
Under
it's a
a plane.
British form for landing gear.
yeah,
It's
sure,
a British name for landing gear.
yeah, always the
Yeah,
under
undercarriage.
right
Yeah,
airplanes.
that's all right.
So yeah, working on that, and we're working on our in-depth report.
Mm-hmm.
So which we haven't talked about yet.
We briefly, we've
Did
mentioned
we?
it. We've
Did
mentioned
we,
it. Yep.
Not this episode though. So
Not-
our special
no.
series.
We're going to start our special series
It's
with our
Part
Patreon.
one
Part
is coming up.
It'll be released next Saturday,
Yes.
which is right around the end of the month.
Yep.
And it's going to be available to our Patreon supporters first
Yes.
for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
So if you want to get there first, patreon.com
Yep,
/ Scale Model Podcast.
I'll get first dibs on seeing that.
First dibs.
I think we have about 8 parts or so lined up.
We filmed 2 so far. And
Yeah.
we're gonna roughly be trying to do this about every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So the week we don't broadcast, but our friends at the Scale Model Podcast do, there'll also be a release for the Patreon supporters.
And that's going to be it's primarily going to be a video series. So you'll
Yes.
be seeing it on our YouTube page.
Hands on with Anthony.
Yeah, and also on our YouTube page, you're going to have all the preceding episodes posted.
Yep, that's actually going to be our site of the week.
Yeah, that's right.
So now I'm hoping eventually to get youtube.com/Scale Model Podcast. But until you get 100 subscribers, you can't personalize.
And what are we
your
up to?
channel. You're up to 60 or 70. So feel free. So this is for people, because I know some people, podcasting, they may be not quite, but they always watch YouTube. So
Everyone knows YouTube.
Everyone knows YouTube. So what I decided to do is, and something I started ages ago, and it kind of fell by the wayside. So I've got all caught up now. So the idea is on our YouTube page, there'll be a full audio of each podcast each week. So it's another way to listen. So if you prefer to subscribe that way, feel free to subscribe that way.
Absolutely.
There will be bonus content. So as for example, the Valkyrie series, it will be released to the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And we will do it that way. So if you find it easier to listen on YouTube, by all means. I still have to do...
And give us a like there and
give
a follow.
us a like and a subscribe.
Yeah.
I have to go back through the episodes and put some of the direct pages to the blog listings that show the show notes.
Ah, okay.
That's fine.
So it's a bit of a project, but you're working your way
working
through
my
it.
way. All the content's up now. That took a while.
Yeah.
So that's all there now. And again, as from this episode forward, as I release this episode tomorrow, I'll also throw it out to Facebook or
awesome.
YouTube. Sorry. So that's kind of our site of the week too. So I think
We're our own site of the week.
our own site of the week.
Well done, Stuart.
Oh, good. Now I do want to point out one other thing. We're getting near the end of the year.
Yes.
Everyone does retrospective shows.
Oh.
I want to do something. I want to find out from people, what's the kit you were most excited about in 2019? It doesn't have to be the kit you bought, but what's one kit you either bought or it was released that you went, wow.
Cool. Caught your attention.
So I'm gonna throw up a link on our Facebook page,
Excellent.
and I invite commentary there. Or
We love getting the
feel free
feedback.
to send us a feedback, viewer mail, and all that. I think I'll be really curious to see what people were excited about. I've been thinking about it. I'm really torn. There was a couple of interesting kits out there.
Can we put more than one, perhaps in order?
Maybe a couple.
Rank them.
Yeah, just put a couple. What kits? Don't put 28.
No.
But
Put two,
two
okay?
or three,
Two.
two or three.
We were
If
pumped
there's
about
two
two
or three.
kits.
You can't decide. Just let us know, and what we'll do is we'll kind of, at the end of
One
the
you
year.
dream about at night.
Yeah, we'll kind of do that end of the year
Yeah.
retrospective and all that.
The one you hold on to a little bit too long in the hobby shop. You're not willing to.
Well, I
break
think
the
that's
bank on.
I think that's your Aliens APC this year.
Well, I just threw the money on the table and
Threw
ran
the
away.
money, you ran away,
Yeah.
and looking awesome.
It's going to be a Sheridan.
You're still getting comments on that. I saw.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's done really well. I'm
So that's
very,
good. So yeah,
pleased.
because we're getting close to that Christmas season.
that kit may be sold in the near future.
Yeah, you have it for sale. I think you were talking.
I haven't
about.
done anything yet, but I was sort of investigating the.
You've got some interested parties, maybe.
Yeah, investigating the
You never
possibility.
know.
That's a brand new area. Maybe we could talk about that later. We'll
You
see what
never know.
happens.
You never know. Hey, you know what you have to do on the bottom? You'll have to sign it, and maybe put
For the love of Pete, though,
Anthony's
I just
accolades.
need a gold in
So-
the science fiction category.
So we also need feedback
Yes.
from Aiden's email. Anthony's acolytes are Goodman's groupies. Or if you got your own, let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for this time. So we record bi-weekly. Don't forget, if you want your podcasting fix and you don't have enough with us, feel free to tune in to On the Bench every other week when the boys aren't fighting fires and
Yep.
doing the good things. And they're available usually every other week that we do not broadcast, so feel free there. The lads there do a great job as well.
Yeah. They're always busy.
They're almost.
Did you see Dave's Polish tank? That
Yeah,
weird
he's
looking hover
with
tank?
the whole digital. Remember, that's the one I like. I like that.
Yeah,
the
he did a
digital
nice job on
camouflage
that.
looks good.
Yeah.
So don't forget to subscribe. Let us know. We love email. scalemodelpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us everywhere your podcasts are found: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and now YouTube. And feel free to like and subscribe to our page at facebook.com/scalemodelpodcast. So for episode 34, my name is Stuart Clark.
I'm Anthony Goodman.
Thank you and be well.